This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a very fresh Sabi and Djuma Game Reserve this morning. We're going to see very quickly, but now we're just going to have a good look around here. No antelope around, that's always a good sign. We have live safari for the African.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond Private Game Reserve, everybody. It's still nice and early, and on our way, just as we left camp, we found, in picture now, we've got 2 elephants, and it is quite a large herd that we're watching move through to the right-hand side over here. You can see this cow in front of us is busy hiding away from us behind this, it looks like a red thorn. But you can see they are feeding. And what a way to start the morning off at Ngala after an incredible afternoon yesterday. My name is Nick, and behind camera once again, Odie this morning, and our plan was to head into a different part of the reserve, head into the west, and where there's quite a nice big waterhole, and just go and get away from all the other vehicles and see what we can find this morning. And as I said, first thing up is a beautiful herd of elephants. See this one being a little bit inquisitive towards us. Actually looks like it might be a young bull, this one. And you can see the little fork-tailed drongo sitting on the tree just next to him, waiting for him to disturb any little insects that it can hawk and swoop in and catch. You can see they're very relaxed this morning, just feeding, probably been feeding throughout the early part of this morning. And I'm pretty sure they're going to continue slowly feeding in the direction to the right of our vehicle. And when it gets a little bit later this morning, there's a good chance we're quite close to a larger watering hole known as Clara Dam. So there's quite a good chance that they might head over there a little bit later this morning to quench their thirst and have a bit of a drink. That elephant, you can see that bigger one, look at her forehead, you can see it's very square, the one on the right hand side of picture. So that's a very easy way of telling that that's a cow. You don't even need to see the rest of her body, just seeing the top of her head. And there are a couple calves around, no really tiny calves, but there are a couple of calves around. Just going to quickly move a little bit, because one of the elephants has come and snuck right up to us. I couldn't agree more, Darcy. They are unbelievably beautiful to start the morning off. And they're a bit of a cheeky elephant bull that was quite keen to come and feed on this raisin bush on our left-hand side. So I just gave him a bit of space so that he doesn't get too close to our vehicle and so that he's got space to move around and feed. I mean, it's crazy that such a big animal is literally only a few meters away from us, probably about just under 30 meters, and he's almost hidden behind this bush. Quickly going to just reposition one more time to get rid of the aerial. There's actually more down there as well, Odie, so there we go. We should be able to get a view of some of them now. Quite nice view. And how are those colours behind the elephants and that marula tree with almost no leaves left on it? The colours this morning are incredible. Lovely blues and purples coming through. And to have elephants on the foreground is not a bad way to have started. one of the more interesting animals. I mean, if you were watching yesterday, you saw we were sitting with the lions for an extended period of time, and they weren't too active. We didn't see them do too much. But now this herd of elephants this morning, every single individual is busy feeding, moving around, all doing something different, which is always makes watching elephants quite special. Oh, and just behind this big cow coming out, you can see a little bit of movement behind her, and I'm sure that little one is going to follow her shortly. Just going to take a few moments because they are feeding quite loud, and just have a listen and hear if you can hear them feeding. You can see this bull on our left putting his trunk right up and into this raisin bush. And look how all the leaves have been stripped off this little poor raisin bush. I think that's what he's busy doing this morning, trying to strip as many of the leaves off just like that. Wrap his trunk around and pull it up. Now he's just deciding to place the whole branch inside his mouth. It's quite a cool angle to be able to watch him feed from as well, being a little bit below him. And as I mentioned, we are trying to get out of this central part of the reserve this morning because it is going to be a little bit busy. I think most vehicles are out on the lookout for some leopards. Oh, quite cool to hear the rumbling from the elephants trying to communicate with each other. And you might be able to hear a vehicle as well at the moment, but yeah, they're potentially going to come and spot us watching these elephants and come and join us. But to get into the other part of the reserve, head west, we can go and look for our own things and see what we can find. Much more exciting when you find your own animals. And that is our plan this morning. And Odie's now picked up on the moon, which is still up. And much whiter than when we've had it in the evenings when it's been rising. So, and you can actually see how on the left-hand side, it's just starting to lose a bit of the full circle. Waning moon. And every night it's going to rise later and later and set later into the morning as well. So I think we're going to move on from this large herd of elephants and keep heading try and get into the west. But for now we're going to send you back to David with an intro.
Good morning and welcome from a lovely chilly Djuma. Just got mobile from camp. Our plan is to check from Gallagher all the way to the M cut line and see if we can pick up on any tracks or activity that may have transpired during the evening and then see where the morning takes us. My name is David Hancock and on camera we have Morgan, and together we're going to see what we can find. As I said, a lovely chilly morning, gloves and boots and almost 2 pairs of long pants. But it'll warm up soon. I've got a good mate called PJ. He lives in the Free State, which is a rather cold province in South Africa, especially in the winter time. And on a morning like this, he would have 2 pairs of short pants on. I'm definitely a warm-blooded baby. I like it nice and hot. Although there is something energizing about a chilly morning. Morgan and I have been speculating about what we may find. And that's the beauty of it. You have absolutely no idea until it happens. Start off a morning game drive. I just put it in first and cruise super slow. I don't go too quick. A lot of time always scanning ahead on the road, looking down, trying to see if any tracks might come up. And up ahead is our first awesome sighting. Just like yesterday afternoon, we're going to start with the jumbo, big old elephant, up ahead here on the road. It looks like it's a family group, a herd. I see a couple of youngsters. Good morning. How are you this morning? Did you have a good sleep? Looks like it's just gotten out of bed. Let's scooch on a little bit ahead. What I like to do with elephant is just move so slowly when I'm around them. Just gives them a little bit more peace about the whole thing. Instead of driving into a sighting too quickly, it can annoy them or startle them. I like to stop at a distance and then slowly work my way forward until I can have a nice sighting that leaves them nice and relaxed. Whereas if you drive up to them a bit quick, they often don't like it, and it's all about keeping these animals in a good space. You never want to stress them out unnecessarily. Best is to be able to view them as naturally as possible. Of course, our presence is always in effect. But thankfully in places like this, Djuma, other reserves that make up this conservation area, there's been game drives and bushwalks going on for many years and decades, so these animals are very used to us. What an awesome start to our game drive. We're going to enjoy these guys for a few moments before moving on to see what else we can find.
So as we were driving away from the elephants, we saw the sun just starting to peak over the horizon, and we thought it would be a really nice scene to just enjoy this morning. And while we do that, I'm just going to keep quiet and listen to the sounds around us. Not sure if you can hear it, but way in the distance there are some elephants busy trumpeting, sort of just down and to the right of this, where the sun is. Other than that, not too many noises this morning. Birds haven't really started chirping yet. Might just be the area that we're sitting, but it could also be that they're just waiting for it to warm up a little bit more. And looking down this road that we are busy on is littered with hyena tracks, which is always a positive thing to see. And after the sunset, now that it's risen nice and beautifully above that tree, I think we will head off into the west and see what's happening out in that part of the reserve this morning.
So as we're just sitting here, this large female, she could even be a matriarch, came to investigate. She's not too sure what to make of us just yet. Her ears are out and she's smelling. She's got that wild look in her eye. Not too trusting. Even now she's looking relaxed, but she's still watching us very intently. Elephants are extremely intelligent, appear to be very emotional at times. That's why it's always so good to give them space, give them their comfort zone. Now she's come and approached us to investigate. Obviously the main reason is she's got that youngster below her. And she's protective. Karen, you say you love how the little ones are so sassy towards the vehicles. They can certainly be sassy. Good choice of word there. Especially when they start getting a bit older. As much as I love cats, especially lion, that being my favorite animal to follow up on and track, I still think spending time with elephant is the most rewarding. Look how cute that little one is. Exploring, learning how its trunk works. She's got rather large tusks, this girl. They've got an interesting shape, quite pointy, that right-hand one. You can see how they've been worn down at the tips, being used as tools to dig and chisel. They will wear down and get rather sharp, and occasionally snap off. Nika, you've asked, at what age do elephants start suckling? Sorry, I said a bug in my throat there. Nika, it varies from region to region. I normally give it a wide span to be safe, not too definite. Some people will tell you exactly 3.5 years or 4 years. But in my experience, having spent time in different parts of Africa, I tend to say between 2 to up to 7 years. The longer periods of time I've read in deserted regions like the Kalahari and Namibia, nutrients are less vegetation, so they will suckle for longer. But in this region you could safely say 3-4 years. The older elephant do often show interest in lactating cows, older calves I should say. Plenty vegetation for them this season. We had a good rainfall. And that also lends to a more relaxed elephant population. When they've got lots of food, then they're happy elephants. When you view them in a drought and there's not much food available, they often tend to get a bit more cranky. What is she eating? I'm going to try and identify the tree species that she's eating. I'm just going to pull out my binoculars. Oh, you can come show me. Did you hear me? And I'm looking and I see a hook thorn and a spike thorn. And that is a buffalo thorn branch. Ziziphus. Very thorny. Not something you want to walk through. It's got a hook thorn that kind of grabs you and a spiky bit that stabs you. Quite amazing how she just puts it in her mouth. And obviously they've got very tough mouths. And the reason that a buffalo thorn has such hectic thorns is to protect its foliage. Its leaves are extremely nutritious, very tasty. Even as humans, we can eat and enjoy them. I've eaten many buffalo thorn leaves whilst out walking in the bush. We sometimes even use it in salad. Back at our lodge where we run safaris, it's quite nice with a bit of tomato and feta. So the salad dressing, some vinaigrette, a buffalo thorn salad. So you can imagine if it's tasty to us, elephants must absolutely love it. Stuck, you've said this is the best medicine. It just makes you smile so big. I agree, it's for me a lovely way to start the morning. Just sitting here with elephant, waiting for the sun to break the crest of the horizon, listening to the birds call, smelling the smells of the bush, musty smells, dusty plants, the vegetation. It's such an incredible environment to spend time in, and it is a privilege to be able to bring it to you live. Earth lover, you've asked a question. Will the matriarch be the matriarch for the rest of her life? And yes, she will. And she would be succeeded most likely by her direct offspring, or certainly in these herds. We were chatting about it yesterday. These matriarchal elephant families are very close-knit. Males will leave the herd when they start getting a bit difficult after puberty, from 15 up to 20s, early 20s. And they enter their first must cycles, which is like an elephant puberty. And they'll head out and look for new stomping grounds, but the females in the herd will stay together. Led and guided by the matriarch and the dominant cows in the herd, dominant females. Once a queen, always a queen. And they've just gone behind some gory thicket here, so we're losing a bit of a visual. I'm just going to maybe move a bit forward, or maybe a bit back. There's actually a better sighting behind us.
I'm Maggie, also known as Mia My Cat on Twitter. I purchased the Ticket to Dream so that I would make it back to Africa someday, so here I am. I enjoy WildEarth very much. Just the experience it brings to everybody, it just helps everybody cope with things.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
My favorite part about today is seeing Maribs, seeing him stalk the waterbuck and seeing the interaction between the waterbuck and him, and he's just an impressive little guy.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
It's very exciting to be on a live drive at Djuma, to see how things work in the back and to be certainly much closer to the animals.
As one of the industry's best and Fagasa Indoors training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
So as you can see, we are now driving again. and we are just slowly making our way into that western part of the reserve. We're currently on a road called Giraffe. Just been past a waterhole, which, to be honest, doesn't have very good signal at, and we didn't see anything there, thankfully. And yeah, we're just now making our way out of all the chaos in the central parts and finding our own area of the reserve to work this morning. Lots and lots of hyena tracks all over the roads. Other than that, haven't seen any other tracks really this morning. You can see the elephants here have caused a bit of chaos with this river thorn, pushing it into the road almost. We'll need to come at a bit of a later stage with a machete or a panga to chop that out of the road. But how's the light this morning coming through from our left-hand side is really quite pretty. It's funny how these mornings, as soon as that sun rises, it gets even colder for about half an hour before it really does start to warm up. But that's not a problem for us because we dressed nice and warm this morning. And you'll see in front of us we're going to come towards a little drainage line known as the Tswalu drainage line on Ngala. It's quite a nice drainage line to drive actually, but I think this morning with it being as cold as it is, it's probably not going to be too productive. And it's going to make mine and OD's life not so pleasant. So we'll try to stick to the higher areas for the time being. I'm pretty sure that's where most of the animals are going to be this morning. Going to be trying to get out of those freezing cold drainage lines and probably away from even the Timbavati River. So as soon as you get to the higher areas where you find these warm pockets of air, I think that's where, if I was any of these wild animals, I'd be looking to spend the morning. This is an area where, for anyone that followed during lockdown, I'm sure if James is watching this morning, he'll know these three leopards very well. That mother, the female leopard with the two youngsters that you were filming around Ngala relatively often during probably this time last year. And to be honest, we're not quite sure where that female leopard's gone. We haven't seen her in ages. Some people believe that she's got cubs and is denning in a new part of Ngala that's got no roads on, that you can't really just go and walk around. I suppose you can if you don't have any other obligations, but we've had trackers tracking in and around that area, and some of the trackers believe that they've seen the tracks of that female. Other trackers think she's dead. I don't think she's still alive. If we haven't seen a sign of her, we used to see lots of signs of her all over these roads in this area, and that's what I was doing there. I was just checking to see if there wasn't a leopard track there, but unfortunately not. Just tracks of a hyena and a scrub here. Keeping a good lookout on either side for any animals that we might spot this morning as well. Haven't seen giraffe or actually most of the general game species. We haven't had such good sightings of the last couple days, so I would be quite excited if we were to find something like giraffe. Even some kudu would be really nice this morning. Okay, so that's a pretty good question, but if I had to give you a yes or no answer, I would be lying. I'm actually not too sure if any of the grasses here do have specific chemicals in them. I don't know which chemicals you're referring to, whether it's chemicals that might make the animals sick or chemicals that might deter them from overgrazing a certain area. But I wouldn't think that any of the grasses have got any harmful chemicals in, because I mean we see these animals feeding on all of the grasses around Ngala, and we never really see too many sick animals from that. We do get grasses that are much more palatable than others, meaning that the animals tend to enjoy feeding on them more because they've got more nutrients in and they are a little bit tastier, essentially, and then more unpalatable grasses that are really not worthwhile for animals eating. And then animals like wildebeest that are selective grazers won't eat those unpalatable grasses. They'll tend to prefer the palatable grasses. And those unpalatable grasses tend to be the pioneer species as well, the species that will grow in disturbed areas or areas that are not really nutrient rich or don't have nutrient rich soils. And then you have increaser species and decreaser species, so species that when they get grazed and overgrazed by animals, they tend to grow more and more in the area, and those tend to be the not such good grasses as well. And then the decreaser species, which obviously when the animals eat them, they decrease in numbers. Some of the best grasses that we have here, buffalo grass being one of them. Some of the not so nice ones, red grass and tassel thereon. This time of year is really not a good time of year to look at grasses though, because the inflorescence on the top of the grasses, pretty much all of them have died, so it's a little bit more challenging to ID them. But in summertime, when the grasses are green and the grasses are flowering and seeding, that's the best time of year to come if you are interested in looking at grasses. So we're now on a road called Aardwolf, which takes us into the west, quite a straight route. There's some quite nice clearings on it. And that pride of lions we were with yesterday often are found along this road. Look, this morning I don't think we're going to see them. Maybe we'll pick up on tracks on this road. I'd be super excited if we did. But I think that they are probably still that way in the southern part of the property. And I was actually avoiding that area as well because it sounded like there were a few rangers keen on heading down there. But some of the guys from Safari Lodge bumped into the Birmingham young male, the white male, and his brother in the north. Would have been an excellent thing for us to head off to and go and see, but unfortunately they crossed out of Ngala and into the Timbavati, which is unfortunate, but I'm sure they'll be back at some stage in the next couple of days. But while we continue heading in a westerly direction towards a large waterhole, we're going to send you back to Djuma and David.
Welcome back, and you've come to us just as we found a hyena moving through the grass. Good morning. Have any snacks last night? Let me turn around so that we can get another look there. We heard some Franklin alarm calling. We thought maybe a predator's about, and we were right. A lot of hyena activity last night going on. We heard them calling late into the evening. Morgan even asked me this morning, was I dreaming or was there a lot of hyena activity last night? And there was. Lots going on. They were very vocal. As we were discussing last night, very diverse vocal repertoire hyena have. Entire studies have been done on the different meanings of the different calls. The experts have identified some incredible sounds and their meanings. Choosing the path of least resistance. Why walk through the thorns and the long grass when you can walk on the road? Well, it's quite far away now. We're just going to carry it on the road. That was our intended direction anyway, so we might as well do it with the hyena. Jerome, you've asked why is he or she alone, and you're right there in saying he or she, because it's super hard to identify the sex or to sex a hyena. Possibly a male, just my gut feel based on the size. They're a bit smaller than the females. And it doesn't look like a particularly young animal. But he or she is alone because hyena often split up. So it'll be part of a family group more than likely. Sometimes they can be rogue, but generally they're always part of a clan. And they'll split up in the search of food. I'm sure others won't be far away. And if they would like to communicate or locate each other, they'll do so with their very in-depth vocalizations. Their far-reaching whoops can carry up to 5 kilometers, they've estimated in these conditions. Sometimes you'll be sitting with the hyena. Oh, he's taking off. I heard something, smelled something. Some alarm calling going on down there. Let's carry on here and see where this hyena goes. I think it's worth following. While we do that, we're going to say cheers for now, and we'll be back shortly.
Nice that David has managed to find a hyena this morning, and always a good sign or a good option to follow him and see where he or she could lead him, because chance hopefully that he will take David to a leopard this morning. We've just passed these big clearings where you would expect to see some general game species, but really quiet so far, this part of the reserve that we have chosen to come to this morning. Also just chatting with OD, we haven't seen signs or tracks of the 2 dominant male lions on Ngala for the past sort of day or two, and I wonder if we're not going to pick up on some signs of them in the west. Maybe they've gone to do a territorial patrol into that part of their territory, maybe go check up on the pride of lions that hangs around in the west, the Birmingham Breakaway Pride, but no signs of them yet. There's a good sign here. We've got some giraffe tracks heading in this direction, but some hyenas have walked over them, so there's a good chance that those giraffe tracks were from some stage yesterday evening. They don't look incredibly fresh. Keep checking into the west. I'm pretty sure the next time that you're going to be with us, we will be either at or close to the watering hole that we're going to go and have a look at this morning. I'm sure we're going to get a chance to see some hippos there. Maybe an elephant. You might be able to see the tracks on the right-hand side of the road heading in the direction that we're going. Lots of elephant dung as well. Looks like it's also from maybe last night. So we are starting to find some promising signs of some wildlife, which is relatively exciting.
just came down to the source of the alarm calling. Kudu have spotted the hyena. Look at her intently watching it as it skulks through the bush. We can no longer see it, but they can. Kudu has a very deep alarm call, like a bark. Hopefully she'll give another one so you can hear it. Just waiting intently now, making sure the threat passes. This hyena would never try and tackle these kudu on its own. Did you see it, Morgan, in front of us? It's on a mission, but hyena can and have taken down kudu instead of stalking ability, which they're not that good at. Like cats are, they rely on their endurance and their running, but then they will rely on numbers. However, these kudu are still showing trepidation or a bit of concern about this predator. It is a predator after all. Look at this female off to the right of us here. She's beautiful in the morning sun. Also moving very intently. I see 3 kudu. Cammy, you've asked, why don't female kudu have horns? How do they protect themselves? I suppose their best protection is their incredible senses, their hearing, their eyesight, their smell. Oh, here's another female also going to move past us on the right. Their brilliant camouflage as they blend into the bush. And just being so wide awake as we've seen here this morning. That is their best defense out here. Even antelope species that have horns and the females and males are still no match to defend against a predator like a leopard or a lion. They have to rely on their speed and their agility, which would be another thing that a kudu has going for it in defense. Not necessarily to stand and fight, or definitely not, but to rather become alert to a predator before it's too late, and then even if that predator pounces, to use that incredible speed to try and get away. That is the best defense, Cammy. Very well camouflaged. We can barely see her behind the bush there, just her hindquarters. They're still here to the left. Look at those massive ears. Talking about their senses, Cammy. Those ears really must pick up a lot of sound and movement. Even the quietest stalking leopard will still make a bit of a sound as it moves through the grass. And the kudu will rely on those sounds to alert them to danger. And I believe everyone is loving this morning light. Golden hour, as they call it. It's probably Morgan's favorite time of the day as a cinematographer. That slanted angle of the sun as it rises, and when it sets, just gives such a beautiful hue. Makes everything seem so vivid and alive. Especially in the winter time when the sun is at a different angle, lower on the horizon. It's even more increased the effect of this morning sun. And down here in the tip of Africa, in South Africa, it feels like the sun is really far away in the mornings. Do you still get any visual of that hyena? I think we may have lost that hyena. But it was lovely to spend time with the kudu. Just going to back up a little bit and see if we can get another glimpse of that hyena. Brody, you've asked, do kudu have a rutting season like impala? They don't rat the way we know impala to rat around this time of year. I'm sure you've become well acquainted with the impala rutting, especially because we're so awake and aware towards alarm calling, and that ratting sound the impala make can often sound like an alarm call. Even this morning as we were sitting waiting to leave camp, we heard that sound and we thought, wonder if there's a leopard or something there, but could have just been the impala going at it. Interesting, no bulls around here. Just the cows. You do often see groups of bulls, and although it's not necessarily a rut, it is in a heightened time of breeding. You'll see many bulls together. Otherwise, for the rest of the year, you'll often just see them on their own, rather solitary. Lovely to spend time with him. One doesn't often spend time with kudu for so long. Normally they just melt away. But Brody, I'm thinking about your question now, and I guess one could call it a rut. It is a time of breeding. I don't necessarily think of it as intense as the impala, but maybe that's because we don't spend so much time with kudu. They're not so numerous as impala. But one does often see incredible fighting happening between kudu bulls, which is especially around breeding time. I've even seen kudu bulls that have had their horns stuck together, those massive spirals, as they fight it out and duke it out for breeding rights. And there's even been accounts that time I saw they did manage to get free, but there's been accounts where kudu bulls have actually stayed entrapped and even died because they couldn't get loose during their fighting. So much that happens in the bush that we don't see. And we're privileged to get the few glimpses that we do.
As the sun goes down in Africa, for many, the day has just begun. WildEarth is ready for the next brand new concept, and this time it's at night. A specialized thermal drone will take to the air under the cover of darkness. As it flies above the bush, it will be searching for hotspots on the ground.
We might have a leopard on the far right of this group of hyena.
The ground team will then be called to identify the animal.
It is a warthog. That's exactly what it is. So there we go. It was a warthog that was running away from... Sorry, Warty.
And of course, it is at this time when the big cats are on the hunt.
Yeah, James, just head a little bit more left.
Okay, copy. I'm going to go north around on Impala Road.
Okay, the lions are on the move, guys. Lions are chasing the wildebeest.
WildEarth is looking for a sponsor who can help turn this show to a long-running series. If you are interested, then head over to our website to find out more. wildearth.tv/sponsors. Across southern and East Africa, the Endangered Wildlife Trust works tirelessly to save species, protect critical habitats, and benefit people. Join the EWT in returning wildlife to the wild. Go to ewt.org.za to find out more and follow our socials to see how you can get involved. Protecting forever, together.
I love being a cam up for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
So we have managed to find ourselves quite a large crocodile that is busy trying to warm up in the morning sun, and it is also indicates to us, and you can see the water and the reflection in the water. So we have made our way to these two water holes in the west. Other than the crocodile, not much going on around here, but you can understand why it is lying in the sun this morning, being a reptile trying to warm up before it starts its day. And the sun is just starting to warm everything up around us. I think it's quite a good position for that crocodile to be this morning. And you can see that beautiful view of this water hole with the big tree in the back as well. Big tree that you see there is a weeping boerbean, or a Scotia brachypetala. And the one at the back is, so there's actually two there. There's one, I mean, it looks like one tree, but the top left-hand side of that green foliage is a different tree, and it looks like it might be a jackalberry. I wonder when was the last time this crocodile had a big meal. Obviously very difficult to tell. You might be able to hear Owen and myself's favorite birds coming into land. to Egyptian geese. If you didn't catch the sarcasm, I was being sarcastic. But they are rather beautiful birds and also underrated. See the coloration on them, the white and the brown. You can see that one busy trying to feed on the edge of the waterhole as well. And these ones, I'm sure, have just come from that larger waterhole west of us, so I wonder why they decided to come over to the smaller dam this side. Maybe it was for some food, maybe it got chased away by other Egyptian geese that side. But these geese you tend to see all over Africa, pretty much in every single country. So we'll get to your question quickly now, Lisa. Odie's just framed up a blacksmith lapwing as well. And what I'm noticing this morning is how stunning the reflection on the water is. Really good photographic opportunities. But Lisa was asking how big do we think that crocodile is? I'll pass this one over to Owen. Owen, what do you think? I think Odie's spot on there by saying 2.5, 3 meters long. And to get the weight of her is probably a little bit trickier. I actually wouldn't. The guess would be a long shot in the park to guess what weight she is. But it is the crocodile that we saw the other day with the young baby crocodiles. And I haven't seen them this morning, so I wonder if they're not trying to warm up somewhere else along the bank of this dam. It's quite tricky to get a view of the right in front of us because there is quite a steep bank. But there's a chance that they could be there, or maybe they're moving around inside the water. Seen them as of yet. Also just to the right of that crocodile Odie, there's another bird species trying to do the same as the and you can see there the birds are water thickneys with that grey wing panel, the easiest way, and all one's just laying down. And if you look, those baby crocodiles have just popped their heads out just to the left of those thickneys in that little, almost looks like a cave, and you can see they are tiny still, very, very, very small. Quite cool that while we were sitting here, because they definitely weren't here when we arrived, while we've been sitting here, they have decided to also come out onto the bank and try and warm up a little bit. Also an African pied wagtail calling in the distance, which I haven't been able to spot yet. I think it might be on just a bank where this dam has been built. But a stunning morning, and this water almost looks like glass this morning. There's no movement, no real ripples. You hear the Egyptian geese starting to vocalize now as well. Letting all the other Egyptian geese know its presence and know that it's here and this is where it is going to remain for a while. But I think with nothing else really being here this morning, I think what we'll do is quickly just turn around. Or not, just turn back and head back towards the larger watering hole, which we have been past already. We just thought it would be quite nice to come and make sure that there's nothing lounging around this dam. And once we head back to the other waterhole, there's a good chance that we're going to find some hippos. So let's make that little trip quickly. I'm just going to go a little bit further forward. There's quite a big tree behind me that I didn't want to reverse into. And the sun is really nice and warm now. So I'm sure that some of these animals that we're hoping to come down to the waterhole are going to start making their way down for a drink this morning. And what we'll do is we'll go and sit at this next waterhole for a little while, and hopefully something comes down to drink. But while we do that, while we make our way in that direction, we are going to send you back over to David in Djuma.
Welcome back to Djuma. We're just cruising down the cut line, what we call a boundary road. Can be a bit busy sometimes, but the benefit is you can really see tracks well. The reason for that is because this road is well maintained, well driven, and nice and sandy, so anything crossing the road, especially with this nice slanted morning sun, will really show up well. Tracks and footprints and sign are much easier to read when the sun's at an angle like this instead of directly above you, because what it does is it casts a little shadow over the ridges in the sand left by the paws or the hooves or whatever made the track, and that allows one to see it more readily. Charles, you've asked an interesting question. Can hyenas change their genders because of their pseudo-penises? Well, only the females will have that pseudo-penis. The males will function as a penis. No, they cannot change their genders, Charles. They are interesting, though, in the topic of much research because of that phenomenon of what we know as a pseudo-penis, making them rather difficult to sex. But born a male, they stay male. Born a female, they stay female. And what do we have here? Some humble impala spending time in the newly burned block. We're in the firebreak section here between Djuma and Buffelshoek. They've recently burnt this block as a firebreak. We were chatting about it yesterday. The reason they do that is to have a buffer zone between the properties. Should a fire break out, a wild bushfire, then it will be either completely stopped or greatly slowed down by this firebreak, because the fuel has already been burnt up. So instead of crossing the road, it'll just fizzle out. But animals love it. If we zoom right down onto the ground, even quite nearby here, you'll see there's very green tufts of grass that come out quite soon after the burn. And that's what these impala are nibbling on, being mixed feeders. See that green coming through the black. And if there was a little bit of a rain, it would be unlikely this time of year, but we do occasionally still get a bit of rain, especially in a very wet season like we've had. Then this just springs to life. Greenery everywhere shoots out almost overnight. And then you'll find all sorts of animals in here enjoying the new sprouts of green grass. We're going to continue on, see what else this lovely golden morning can bring us.
They're talking about somewhere inside the
One benefit of driving in these burn blocks is you can just see so much better. You can look through the trees, no grass stopping your your vision. Of course, bushfires can also be terrifying, especially when they get out of control. They can be deadly if one gets trapped. Stacey, you've asked, do they burn all the areas or only certain spots? So it very much varies from reserve to reserve. Different reserves have different management protocols according to their scientific management practice, their research into their carrying capacity, meaning the amount of animals that are there, their vegetation type, because there are different burns for different purposes. For instance, sometimes there's too much moribund material, which is dead vegetation that's kind of piling up. Perhaps an area has a lot of unpalatable grass, it didn't all get eaten, and it just kind of lies there flat and it doesn't allow anything else to push through. Then they'll have a nice quick fire to push through there, clean it up. Sometimes they'll do a burn to knock back woody growth, because out here in the bush there's always this competition between grass and trees. And in areas where there's been overgrazing, too much grazing, the grasses get knocked back, the woody vegetation takes over, then they'll use fire to knock back that woody vegetation. Just stop, what do we see there? Oh, some mongoose sunning themselves. We're gonna sit here and enjoy watching these little guys as they take in the morning sun.
So we've made our way to the largest waterhole on Ngala, known as Alfred Dam, and you can see a really stunning shot of the scene. And I think it's quite a good idea while we wait for something to come down. Just going to keep quiet so that everyone can also essentially enjoy the experience, and hopefully while we sit here in silence, something will show up. So you can see hippos in picture. And for the time being, it looks like just 2 of them. But there are a few more in this pod that are coming up and down every now and then. If you look over that big hippo, you can see that little head that just popped up. I think that looks like a young hippo. Super far away to tell exactly how young. But always nice to see hippos, and it's always a pleasant surprise when you get here and they are being a little bit active. Favorite thing for when viewing hippos is when they vocalize. I love to hear them call. I wonder what time they got back from their evening of feeding this morning, whether it was when the sun was just starting to rise or maybe they got back while it was still dark. Only they would be able to tell us that. That one that's got its body fully out the water, and those other 2 heads that are there's more than likely the fact that they are in quite a shallow area where they're just lying down in the sand or the mud, and thus able to keep their head out without too much effort. As I mentioned over the last few days, how important timing is in the bush, and how lucky one can be with good timing or not so good timing. And this morning, I think we've just been unfortunate to time our visit to the waterhole not at the exact right time. If you remember the other day, I think it was yesterday, where we had that herd of elephants come down to that other waterhole in the east. And that's another thing that one can do, is come and sit here for extended periods of time. I could sit here all day, to be honest. Grab a chair and a book, hop out the car and just sit and read and relax and wait for everything to come down to the water. But you've got to be very patient, and also don't be too disappointed if at the end of the day you don't see much, because you can't guarantee that animals will come down to this specific waterhole. There are other waterholes around here that they might go to, some seasonal pans that might still have a little bit of water in. But if you're willing to put in the work and the patience, then you might be pleasantly surprised with quite a nice sighting of something coming down. My most memorable sighting at this waterhole, I've had lots of different sightings of very cool sightings of animals and wildlife, wild dogs especially. That would be a really nice surprise if they came running through the back here. But my most memorable sighting is probably watching 2 African hawk eagles hunting and killing a spur fowl, actually just below this bank that we're sitting on now. It was insane to see. It's the only time I've ever really seen those eagles, hawk eagles, hunt successfully. And it was quite impressive to watch their ability through the air. Nancy, I've got absolutely no idea, unfortunately. It did dry up, what was it, close to about a year and a half, just over a year and a half ago, almost dried up. But it's quite difficult for us to know once it's filled up again to a certain level exactly how deep it is. But in the middle, I would say probably between 2 and 3 meters. So in the middle of this waterhole, it's quite deep, and we don't tend to see too many of the hippos moving around that part of the waterhole. I think because it is so deep, and all the way around on the edges, it's probably a much more shallow. But that's where the hippos tend to spend their days, just resting in the dam. But yeah, I'd say probably between 2 and 3 meters in the center at the moment, with the depth that it is currently at. Imagine all of the areas where you can see grass around this water. Imagine the waterhole where it's so full that the water's covering all that grass. And unfortunately, I haven't seen it that full, but I have chatted to some of the people that work at Ngala and have been here for years and years and years, and they said there was a year where it was unbelievably full. That road that we just drove from that small waterhole to this bigger one, couldn't drive there because the water was overflowing from this one into the other one. And that must have been unbelievable to see. And you can imagine then the waterhole probably would have been close to 10, 15 meters deep in the middle. Lots of sharp-toothed catfish or barbel in this waterhole as well. And I saw the other day there was a crocodile around here somewhere, but I haven't been able to spot it this morning. There's a chance that it could be lying at the bottom here. Oh, hippo yawning. Chance that it could be lying just below us in the bank here, or maybe it's inside the water. But I've had a good scan around where we can see and haven't picked up on it. Lynn, again a question, do hippos ever have twins? I haven't heard of hippos having twins, but I wouldn't rule it out as a complete impossibility, because we know that elephants can have twins. It's not common, but they can have twins. So just quickly grabbing my field guide out and seeing. But yeah, and it doesn't say much in the book, but I would have to say that probably, if it was to happen, it would be super, super rare. You can imagine to carry 2 baby hippos inside of you for about, I think it's about 15 months. About 8 months, their gestation period. It would be a long period to have 2 babies in your tummy, and then to look after them as well. But I wouldn't rule it out. I'm sure it's happened at least once or twice somewhere. Whether or not both of those hippos survived the birth, I'm not sure. Do you remember quite a while ago, I read an article where, I think it was in South Luangwa somewhere, where one of the lodges reported a hippo that had 2 small babies, and I think they had a feeling that they might have been twins, but I've never seen it, and I've never really looked into it. So I think we've given it a good amount of time, and I'm not going to wait any longer, because we could sit here till 9:30 and see nothing else. It's really pleasant. It's really peaceful here this morning. But I think we're going to move off and start heading down towards the Timbavati River from here.
As one of the industry's best and FAGASA-endorsed training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a FAGASA-accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Well, we are still on the track of leopard, heading north towards the Buffelshoek side, so we'll see if we get lucky. Otherwise, just content to spend time in the bush. It's been a fantastic couple days, been lovely being back at Djuma. Guest presenting. It's been quite a while. I love to be back out here in the Sabi sands and spend time with the WildEarth crew. Such a incredible outfit, doing amazing work, bringing wild live safaris to you on your screen wherever you may be in the world. It's a privilege to be part of it and a privilege to bring it to you. And on another exciting note, we are also joined by another guest presenter sitting behind me. And his name is Troy Misa. He's going to be hopping in front of camera shortly. Now, what's most special about this is there's something in front of us that we've been following, and I'll get back to Troy shortly because our tracking paid off. Sorry, Troy, not as important right now. There's a leopard in front of us. And that's the beauty of trekking in the morning. When you get rewarded, it's even better. And who might this be? I'm going to have to rely on an ID from one of our long-standing viewers. Of course, I don't know these leopard very well. Being a freelancer in this area, not spending a lot of time out here. But I'm just so happy that we found a leopard, especially after trekking for a while. Let's see if we can get a bit of a visual. It seems to be on a bit of a mission. Who are you? Gonna carry on? Sweet! Missioning, moving quickly. And just see that white tip in the air. Oh, thank you very much. My tracking getting complimented. Seems to be scent marking. So quite confident in this territory. Does anyone know who she might be? Let's carry on. Get another look at her face. Positive ID came back, and it is Cara. Thank you very much for that. My first time meeting Cara. She's on the move. I wonder. Who Cara's mother is. Maybe someone can tell me. Stations located Cara, Fazingwe on Aubrey's Road heading north. Gave a quick radio call there to let the other vehicles know. Everyone's been looking for leopard this morning. We are fortunate enough to track and find, but I can't take all the credit. It was actually Troy behind me who saw the track. I just drove the vehicle. So much to see out here when you have extra sets of eyes. It's so helpful. Can't tell you how many times Morgan or Tio or one of the cam ops has spotted leopard when I'm looking at a bird somewhere. More eyes and ears, the better. Thank you for that question. Didn't quite catch your name there, but you asked, do leopard always patrol in the morning? Vicky, thank you for that. And it's not always in the morning, but often in the morning. Often also at dusk. Generally, I tend to see them more in the cooler hours of the day. But yes, quite commonly in the morning, Vicky. I'd say if you had to compare between midday and morning, you would be far more likely to see leopard activity in the cooler, earlier hours. I suppose it's just that. It's cooler, not as hot. More comfortable for them to move. I imagine they are far happier to spend time lazing on a marula tree branch during the heat of the day. So I've just been told that her mother is Shidulu, who I've had time with in the past. Shidulu meaning termite mound, which I assume is where she was first spotted, or perhaps she really likes termite mounds. And even more exciting to me is that her father is the one and only Hook Haburi, the legend who lives on through his offspring. Even as a guest presenter, I was so fortunate to spend time with him. In recent times here. Stations has radio down if anyone is responding to Mafazi and Greylock Aubrey's Road. Copy that, she's still heading north and I'm still sticking with her. Let me know when you're closer. She is beautiful. Bluebird, you say busy girl on a mission this morning. Absolutely. She's very busy. Not enough for her to walk slowly. She's got to throw a little trot in there every now and then. And stick with her. See what her movements are. At the moment, just a lot of scent marking down the road. Claiming the road. I've got vehicle audio. She just made it to the fire break. Just another vehicle joining us in this sighting. As I said, everyone... Oh, she just got a little bit of a crack there. And everyone is on the hunt for leopard this morning, so they're going to join us in this beautiful sighting. Cameron, you've asked, do leopard only scent mark in an area that is their territory? And yes, that will be the area that they would scent mark unless they were trying to move in into a bit of a takeover. But yes, what she's doing is just reiterating that scent. A leopard that'll start scent marking in another leopard's territory is basically getting ready for a fight. And I've lost her here in the long grass, but hopefully we'll get another sighting soon. Still no visual, but hopefully relocate it. Just give us a few moments here. And welcome back. Just trying to relocate one car here. And Morgan sees her. Like I was saying earlier, eyes on the back often see what eyes on the front don't. What did you say, brother? Oh, there she is. So camouflaged in the grass. She's right in front of us here. Let us just reposition. She's playing hide and seek with us. Now she's going around the other side. She's chasing something, maybe like a field mouse, or she's let it go. And off she goes across the road. She really is making us work for it. There she is. Very much on a move, very energetic. Incredible how she just melts away into the bush.
Very well done to David for managing to find a leopard for us all this morning. Excellent on his behalf, and it sounds like he might have found it all on his own, which is always fantastic. We are at an area known as 5 Star in Ngala, and you'll see we are going downhill. So we are starting to make our way down to the Tswalu River. We're not in a rush though, we're taking it nice and slow. Seeing if there's no tracks and signs of pretty much anything, nothing specific on our radar this morning. And this area that we're going to go through now is quite dense with quite a few bush willows and raisin bush around. So quite a tricky area to spot animals in. We would hopefully like to find them on the road. Should make our life a little bit easier. What's in store for us down near the banks of the Tswalu River. I wouldn't be surprised now that it's warmed up that animals have started to move down towards the riverbed, especially things like elephants to start feeding on the vegetation around the river bank, maybe looking for some water. There is quite a prominent area close to where we're going to be driving to now, where for the last couple of months we've seen elephants consistently and repetitively come back and dig for water in that area. So it's obviously an area where the water table is a little bit shallower and it's a little bit easier for elephants to dig and get water. And there's also other animals that have been repeatedly using those holes that have been dug by the elephants to also quench their thirst and grab a drink of water. So it's always a good area as well, even though we tend to check the water holes. Oh, thought there was a track of note, but it was just a zebra track. Thought maybe it was one of those male lion tracks that I was mentioning earlier, but no signs of them. So I wonder maybe they're a little bit further west. We didn't want to head further west from those water holes because our signal tends to dip a little bit in those areas. And so we're heading down back towards an area where we hopefully will have some luck. Quite keen this morning at some stage to also find another party of birds where they are feeding some of the smaller seed eaters and maybe some of the larger insect eaters as well. Spend some time birding if an opportunity presents itself. We might even start to see some of the raptors getting into the air and start flying now that it's warmed up a little bit. They would have warmed their bodies up and it's now time where they'll start looking for some food as well. Don't know if you heard those francolins alarming next to our car as we gave them a bit of a fright and they flew off. So I think Jerome was asking if I keep a bird list. I do keep a bird list. I wouldn't say that it's incredibly high, but I have done quite well the last few months, and there's actually quite an interesting bird perched up the top here. I know, Odie, it might be a bit of a challenge for you to get it on. Oh. Classic. As soon as you try and get a bird on, as soon as you find it, it flies off. It was a brown-headed parrot and it was really sitting nicely in the top of that knob thorn. It was quite pretty. I do keep a bird list. I wouldn't say it's on an a huge number. I'm on about just under 500 birds now, and I only really started keeping a list once I had started guiding in the bush. Before that, I just used to enjoy birding, and my dad always tells me that there's about 100 birds on the list that I've seen when I was little, when I wasn't as enthusiastic about it. Things like mangrove kingfishers, sweet waxbills. I remember to an extent seeing them, but I haven't included them on my current list because I don't quite count them, because I don't remember exactly when I saw them and where. And also it makes it a little bit more fun having to now re-add those birds to the list. So if I had added all of those birds, I'd probably be close to about 570, 580. But birding is one of those things, there's no real point trying to falsify your list, because you're only really cheating yourself then. It's something that you do for enjoyment, and you do because you want to do it, and that there's no real competition with other people in lists. I mean, some people are really big twitchers, and during this year specifically, there have been some amazing birds that have popped up in South Africa. I think it was the other day, a bird species that have never been seen in the sub-region, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a lesser white-throat that was seen somewhere around Vereeniging in Johannesburg, somewhere south of that. Which is quite insane. There were some ridiculous birds seen on Ngala during Eloise, the big cyclone that came through. Eric saw, I think it was a grey frigate bird, which is unheard of. There were lots of sooty terns, which are quite a tricky bird to find. There was a sooty gull near Kaimouth, which twitchers flew from all over South Africa to get. I don't think I'm quite at that stage where I'm going to fly across the country to add one bird to my list. But maybe when I get a little bit older and I start wanting to tick off those really difficult species that you might only get one opportunity in your whole life to see, then I might twitch for those. But for the time being, I tend to just enjoy birding, and what I've really found enjoyable about it is the places that it takes you. So often people just want to go to national parks to see the wildlife, but there's some incredible places, especially around South Africa, areas like Magubuskloof and Wakkerstroom, where the game viewing is not exceptional, but the birding is. And they're really beautiful areas, very scenic, some forest areas. Wakkerstroom's more wetlands and grasslands. It's an area where you target things like larks, and I think some of the water birds. For birders in Johannesburg, I went to an area called Marievale the other day with Dan, one of the rangers from Ngala. I'm sure a lot of you know him from WildEarth as well. And that, for me, was a really special place. It didn't cost anything, and it's not in the best condition I think it's ever been in, but it was well suited for if you're going for just a day out birding. And I think that day we managed to get around 80 species. We probably added about 15 new birds to our list as well. Things like African snipe, black-crowned night heron, great-crested grebe, some of the birds that you would struggle a lot to get in Kruger National Park. And I know at Phinda the other day as well, it is a star bird at Phinda, so each of our andBeyond lodges tends to have 10 star birds per lodge, and at Phinda they saw an African finfoot for the first time since I've been with andBeyond, so just over 2.5 years, which I know all of the rangers were very excited about. And also, birding's not for everyone. Some people really hate it, and others, I am one of those that love it. But I'm also not going to push it onto anyone or try and pressurize anyone to get into birding. I think it's something that you sort of need to do on your own. Once you get that knack for it and you really start enjoying it, it's quite an enjoyable experience. So there's some quite fresh elephant tracks and dung in the road, and we are now on the banks of the Timbavati, on the northern bank, at an area known as Hennies, with some really magnificent trees around here. And no one's really come into this area this morning, so we've got it all to ourselves to check for tracks and signs and see what's around. We've done well this morning. We haven't seen a single vehicle on drive, which is usually my favorite drives, is when you go out and you do things on your own. Look, sometimes you can't. Sometimes if you need to see lions, you will go after them. Oh, and there we go. a large troop of baboons, but while we see what direction they're in, we are going to send you over to Mike in Pridelands, who wants to say good morning.
We're out a bit later this morning, but we found some impalas lurking in a drainage line just to the south of Impala Plains. We decided to come and walk close to the HQ this morning just because our time is a bit shorter. Hi everyone, my name's Mike Anderson. Behind the camera is Craig, and this is Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy, where we're close to the northern boundary of the reserve. Just because as we left the HQ, some leopard tracks, walk drainage line. Oh, there goes the impala. Bye-bye. We've seen impala, we've seen duiker, and now we saw some leopard tracks as well. We saw an elephant on our drive to HQ. So there's a lot of stuff happening in this northern part of the reserve. They're all running. That's quite typical of impalas, or any animals that herds. It's called herd mentality. If one runs, others don't know what's going on. They should all run in order to stay close to each other, because there's safety in numbers, and one might have seen something that the others didn't. So they'd prefer to all stay together. But our plan for the rest of the morning, from here where we stand right now on the southern end of Impala Plains, we're probably going to cross to where those impalas were, walk that sodic clearing along the drainage line towards the mountains and in the direction of Leopard Dam, just to see what else we can find this morning. As the winter is progressing, it's becoming more and more difficult to find the little things. There's less insect activity. There's a lot less flowers. So we're really trying to see if we can find some tracks and follow animals. See if we can find them. I see movement of some sort. Oh no, it's the impalas again. I thought I saw something, but just through the bushes there, you might just see the movement of some impalas. It's the same group that just ran. It's incredibly quiet. There's really hardly a sound. Well, we're not going to stick around much longer. We're going to keep heading down to the drainage line. It is very quiet. Hopefully we can come up with something. In the meantime, we'll send you who's at Djuma.
Hello, and good morning, everybody. Thank you, David, for that awesome introduction. My name is Troy. Very nice to be on the channel. Very excited. We've had a lovely, exciting morning so far. Been quite thrilled to be across the side. And what a way to kick it off. Hopped on the vehicle with Dave this morning. And onto some tracks and managed to bump into Cara. So that's definitely one way to kick off the morning. It was quite chilly a little earlier on. I was a little bit worried about wearing these shorts, but it seems to be warming up quite a bit now. And we've just had a little bit of info come through one of the radio channels and one of the other guides letting us know that there is another leopard around, and hopefully we'll be able to make our way towards that. Apparently it is Tabangumi, but we'll see when we get there, I suppose. Thank you very much for the big welcome, everybody. If you have any questions for me, please send them through. And just so you have a little bit of background knowledge about me, I grew up in the Manyeleti Reserve alongside with David. Actually, he was one of my first friends and has now ended up becoming my business partner as well. So a very strong friendship, and he is actually the reason why I'm across here now with you, and helping me face some fears being in front of a camera. But so far so good, enjoying it, and just loving being in the sands. I actually haven't been in the sands too many times before. This is probably, all in all, about the 7th day that I've been in the Sabi sands. Previously, I was actually across helping my sister at Simbambili. I just helped relieve them for a few days. When I was across there, they were off to a wedding, so I was there for 4 days. But what a beautiful part of the world. And it is true what they say about the leopards in this area. Clearly, after last night and this morning, 2 days, 2 leopards. It's been some exciting stuff, I must say. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, I'm not too sure where I'm going, but I'll have David and Morgan in the back to help me out with that. So we're going to carry on making our way towards Tabangumi, and we'll get back to you hopefully when we're with them.
The annual Safari Guide of the Year competition aims to create awareness for those men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. This year's event will be held at Marataba, a breathtaking privately managed section of the Marakele National Park in South Africa's Limpopo province. In celebration of this, WildEarth and Marataba Luxury Lodges are offering all explorers a chance to win a 3-night stay at Marataba Safari Lodge for you and a friend. In addition to a spectacular land-based safari, Marataba Luxury Lodges offer an opportunity for guests to cruise peacefully along the Matlabas River, watching the animals as they drink and wallow. The lodge offers you a chance to lie by the pool or enjoy a spa treatment, and one night could be spent sleeping out under the stars in a luxurious treehouse. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 30th of June, and it could be you heading off on a long-awaited getaway. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for their environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our earth.
It's a huge privilege to be in these incredible places with these amazing animals. I love filming lions. When they do get up and do something, it's always spectacular. When they are playing, are incredibly fun to watch, especially subalterns and cubs. I love being in the bush and working in these incredible places with these amazing animals. We want to bring it to you so that you can almost feel like you're right there and be able to experience it and enjoy it the way we are.
So you can see in picture now, Odie has framed up one of the more willing birds. It looks like a little blue waxbill. You can see that pastel blue coloration with the brown. You can see how they're all feeding on the road in the sun this morning. We did try and bird here the other day, but I think we just drove a little bit too close and scared them all off, and then they moved off to feed in a different area. Whereas this morning we've managed to be a little bit more successful. Lots of grey-headed sparrows as well. So hoping that one new species, one or two, it would be quite cool to get 5 different species in one area. And this is the sort of birding that I tend to enjoy the most because there's lots going on. There's lots of different species to look at and watch and see how they're digging in the grass, looking for seeds. Occasionally we might even bring in, or this might even bring in some of the bigger birds, because you can imagine with these little ones feeding on the ground, like those elephants this morning with the fork-tailed drongo, following them, waiting for them to disturb food for it. These little birds feeding on the ground and the grass might also end up disturbing some smaller insects, which in turn things like southern black tits and fork-tailed drongos and starlings will then come in and try and catch. So that's why you tend to see so many of these species all together. It's really quite peaceful where we are sitting this morning. And an update from Tristan's safari. I think he managed to, with Nikki, managed to find one of those leopard cubs this morning. I don't think they had a view of the mother, so they weren't able to stick around for too long, but they've had to work really hard and long to find them. So I'm glad that they were the ones that found one of the cubs this morning. And at least now they know the definite area of where they are, so they'll be able to come or head back there this afternoon and see if they can't pick up on them. Another bird species that's just flown in, hopping around the road, and I think it might be a Sabota lark in amongst the middle there. Tommy, the yellow-billed hornbill, southern yellow-billed hornbill, it is quite a common bird in this part of the world. The Kruger National Park is renowned. It's probably one of the birds that people tend to spend the most time with in the area because it's a bigger bird, so it's easy to spot, it's easy to identify, especially around the campsites. They tend to get quite tame and come and try and eat your breakfast. So it is a bird that is quite common around Ngala and the Kruger National Park in general. I'm sure they see lots of them at Djuma as well and Pridelands. So maybe Mike or Troy could see if they can't find a yellow-billed hornbill this morning. I'm sure it'll take Troy's mind off trying to learn the new property. But I think we've sort of birded this hotspot out, so I think we're going to keep driving. Maybe if we find a yellow-billed hornbill as well, we'll frame it up for you and show you what it looks like. It is a special bird for this area. Okay, believe it or not, somewhere like Phinda, where their birding is absolutely ridiculously good. Phinda's probably got close to the best birding in South Africa in terms of big 5 game reserves, as a result of their sand forest that they have. But yellow-billed hornbills are quite rare at Phinda. You don't see them very often. So something that's so common in Ngala, when it pops up at Phinda, everyone gets really excited by it. And if there are any birders keen on doing a safari and seeing some really special birds like African broadbill, southern banded snake eagle, Narina trogons, Phinda is the place to do it. It's really, really, really good for birding. It's just because of the sand forest, as I mentioned, and then also they've got 7 distinct habitats in the property. So there's 7 distinct areas where you can go and search for different species that might prefer to spend time in those areas, whether it's a result of their feeding strategies or the habitat types that they like. The Kruger is also really, really good for birds, but you won't get the specials, or at least in this part of Kruger. If you head up into northern Kruger around Pafuri, Makaleki, there you have a good chance of coming right with some specials. I've also just seen an elephant bull on our right hand side, so I'm just going to try to see if we can't get a nice clear angle to view him from. I don't want to drive off road here because it is a quite rocky area and the grass is very long, so we won't be able to see the rocks. I just want to check with Odie if he's happy. Oh, there's another one up there. Let's just go a little bit further forward. There we go. 2 elephant bulls feeding in these grasslands of Ngala, in the southern parts of Ngala, and you might even be able to see it just over my head, straight in front there. There we go. quite nice matching tusks as well. Have a look how the left one curves up a little bit and the right one's a little bit longer and straighter. Have a look how you can only see half of that elephant's body as a result of, or not half, you can see more than half, but you can't really see the legs too easily. And that's as a result of the long grass that we have in this area. He seems to be walking straight towards us. Notice how it's just his trunk that's really moving, no real flapping of his ears yet, so it's not hot enough where they are trying to cool themselves down. I'm sure they're actually enjoying this morning sun. And two of them together, quite common to find elephant bulls in small groups like this. Sometimes you find them on their own as well, but often that you'll see them in these little bachelor herds. For the time being, it's only two of them. How beautiful is that with the sun on his face and strolling right towards us. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sneak forward because he has moved behind a bit of a bush just to improve our view. And then I think there's no real reason for us to move on from these elephants right now. It's quite nice that we managed to find them. And as I said, that's the joy of driving in an area where no one else has driven, because we're not sure what was going to be around here. We could have found anything. And it's really nice that we found these elephant bulls. Tend to find the elephant bulls of Ngala along the Timbavati riverbed and then into the south of the property. So Amanda, the Timbavati riverbed is an area that doesn't have any grass at all. So there's one of the areas. And then other than that, there are a few sodic sites where it's quite a sensitive area and it's an area where grass doesn't grow. But most of the property has grass on it, other than the roads, the riverbeds, and the sodic sites. And I remember David speaking this morning about burning and the different ways of managing areas. There's also a piece of Ngala that has been burnt this year in the south. It's where we think the Birmingham Pride, lionesses and the small cubs are, so it's an area that we can't off-road in because it's very sensitive, so we haven't really been keeping a close track of exactly where they are, but we think they're somewhere around there. And other than that, pretty much all of Ngala is covered in grass. But there are patches where the grass is a little bit longer and shorter. This area that we're in along Henny's Road, and as we start moving further south into the property, the grass is really long and thick at the moment. And that's because, or look, in general, this part of the property tends to have more densely covered areas in grass, but this year specifically because of the exceptional rains that we had in the summertime, the grasses have flourished and they are very, very thick. And that's what these elephant bulls are doing in this part of the reserve this morning. You've seen this one specifically feeding on grass. He now looks like he might be moving onto a bush, but predominantly feeding on grass. No, you will not push that knobthorn down. I think that is unfortunately what he's doing there. I think he's trying to size it up. As insane as it was to see that irritates me. I think that's unnecessary. He didn't need to do that. But he doesn't know any better, and he's just pushing that knobthorn over so that he can feed on it. Now, with him pushing it over, I'm really hoping that he will stick around and feed on that tree for an extended period of time and not just move off. If he just moves off, I'm going to be frustrated, because there are lots of trees that have been damaged by elephant bulls specifically this year. Lots of marula trees that we've seen ring-barked, lots of knobthorns, which is that tree that he's just pushed over, that we've seen elephants pushing over. And lucky, it is the time of year where you would tend to expect more trees, the elephants to be feeding on more trees. But it is a little bit frustrating when you tend to enjoy looking at the bigger trees as well. I mean, that tree's probably been growing there for close to 10 or 15 years, and now, boom, just like that, he's broken it. And I don't know if you heard that little crack as well. It sounded like he snapped the tree. So sometimes when they push them over, they just bend them over and the roots sort of come out, and then the tree can still grow. It tends to raft and grow straight up from the trunk, sort of up towards the sky. But I think that tree has now been killed by this elephant. But how cool was it to see it nonetheless? So while we reposition and hopefully watch this elephant feed on this tree for a while, we'll just sit here and enjoy him for the next couple of seconds.
So I'm really sorry that Nick was upset about the knobthorn. He shouldn't come to Pridelands. There are a lot of knobthorns that have been ring-barked and pushed down here. But we found a tree that is also a favorite of many animals. Elephants don't particularly attack this one. However, it produces a lovely fruit. This is called a jacket plum. It's a very small jacket plum, and one of the distinctive characteristics of these trees when they are very small is that their leaves have these very, very sharp serrations all over the edges. They seem to lose these serrations as the tree and the leaves get older, which is a cause of great concern to our students when we ask them to identify these trees. It confuses them greatly, which I actually quite enjoy. Now, the fruit on this tree is tasty. It's very tart. It's like a plum, but maybe a little bit of a sourish plum. But it's not so, it's quite refreshing on a hot day. It's very small, maybe about the size of a pea. And it's called a jacket plum because when the fruit is ripe, this little green outer casing bursts open and it looks like a little jacket around this very, very bright orangey red fruit, which is well loved by many birds, monkeys, and I'm sure a variety of other animals will love the fruit as well. The fruit can be used for making jellies, making alcohol, can be just eaten raw. People really have enjoyed those in the past. Now, one thing that I've recently learned is that this tree also produces, or the nuts, if you crush them, you can get quite a high quality, very thick oil, which is supposedly very good for hair. So it minimizes hair loss, according to traditional beliefs. I'm not sure if there's actual medicinal scientific verification on that. It's quite interesting to think that you could get the oil from this and apply it to your scalp. It's supposed to help against hair loss. This is a small one. They grow much larger, and the wood is fairly soft, but used for small implements and ornaments. Hopefully we can find a few larger ones. I have seen a few around Pridelands. So when the summer comes, find some of the ripe fruits, and then you can all be with me when I try some. Very, very delicious.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, after a little bit of a run around and a few U-turns here and there, with some assistance of some of the local guides in the area, we've managed to come across this beautiful, what looks like male leopard. Assuming it's Tabangumi. If you guys have any extra info for me, I would really appreciate that, as I do not know any of the leopards in the sands, but he sure is a beauty. I'm taking a bit of a cat nap from what it looks like. Earlier on, he did lift his head a little when we arrived, gave us a quick glance, but now he looks super relaxed and just having a little chill session. Looks like quite a big boy as well. Really is truly amazing to be able to say that this is the second leopard that we've seen of the day already. I mean, I've probably only been out for about an hour and a half, and now we're already into our second leopard sighting. The sands is really living up to its name, and it is just very special to be able to be out here with these guys. And one day, hopefully, all of you will be able to get the opportunity to come spend some time with us out here and witness being with these beautiful animals firsthand. Hey Lucy, good question. Obviously it just depends on how close one is to the scent mark and how fresh the scent mark is. But typically you can. Usually when you're out on foot and you get a little close to it, and if it is still quite wet, it actually smells like popcorn. I know it's very hard to imagine that that could even be the truth, but it truly does. It smells like you've just opened a packet of Ster-Kinekor popcorn, and the scent is quite strong, actually. We all get a little bit excited when we do come across a scent mark like that, because that generally means it's quite fresh. And coming from the areas where we work within, and also it being one of my favorite animals out here, it tends to get the heart beating a little bit faster, because it means that you should be close by, and then hopefully you pick up on some tracks, and then you can follow up on them. And if you are real lucky to be able to track and find a leopard like we did this morning, it's always a special occurrence. He really is not fazed by us at all. Fantastic. It's just been confirmed that we are actually with Tabungumi. That's always exciting. It's lovely to see a new leopard. Well, new for me, that is. I'm sure a lot of the viewers out there have been seeing him on a regular basis. If anybody has any information on how old he is, and what his preferred areas are, that's always something that's nice to know. Okay, so this beautiful male Tabungumi apparently was born in the beginning of 2018. So he's still sort of mid-aged. He's not even. So a fairly young cat. So we can look forward to seeing him around for some years to come. He's pretty much entering his prime. I imagine, being such a big, beautiful male, that he probably has quite a prominent territory in the area. He's being a typical leopard and lying up against a termite mound. He's found himself a shady spot, which is rather unusual. I thought he would have possibly just been at the top, maybe basking in the sun. Possibly might have eaten already, so he's not necessarily on the patrol or lookout for anything to catch or feed on for the moment. Maybe this evening or a little bit later. What tends to surprise me a lot of the time is we all seem to think that animals live by the clock, which is not the case. Sometimes you'll come across a leopard being active at midday. They don't necessarily read our books that we refer to all the time, so they tend to abide by their own rules. So sometimes you'll get them mobile throughout the day, especially if it's nice and cool. Oh, he's just lifted his head up. What a beauty.
So we've decided to stick with this elephant. You can see that tree that he's just pushed over to his left, our right. And if you look at the top, you can see that little bit of lighter bark where he has fed on the tree a little bit, but not quite as much as we were hoping for. You can see he is busy chewing some of the branches now, and I think what he's doing with those branches in his mouth is he's just trying to strip some of the bark off. He will end up eating some of the smaller branches, but obviously he doesn't want to eat the really big pieces of wood. There's no nutritional value in those twigs and sticks, so he'll just try and strip that bark off. And at least we've seen him feeding on the tree for a little while. You can see as well. Have a look at the left tusk. You can see it's quite a lot sharper than the one on the right. So it looks like he tends to use that left tusk for most of his feeding. The right tusk also looks like he uses a little bit, but the left one definitely more so. And a really, really chilled elephant bull this morning. Quite a nice breeze starting to blow. Different to yesterday. Yesterday we had sort of a northwesterly wind, whereas today it's coming from the south. And with it starting to warm up, we've started to take some of our larger jackets off, and I'm sure these elephants, as it gets warmer and warmer today, not far from the Timbavati riverbed, I'm almost certain that they're going to move down in that direction towards the riverbed to feed in the shade, maybe rest as it gets really warm this afternoon. I think it's probably going to get to about 25, 30 degrees Celsius today, and also a chance to get down into the riverbed and have a drink. Throw some wet sand on their back to help them cool down. There you can see that whole stick in his mouth, and have a look at the left. Oh, another one, never mind. You can see the other elephant now. Still also not too far, probably about 50 meters. Well spotted, Dr. Rocky Balboa. Elephants, and specifically these two elephant bulls, do have unbelievably long eyelashes. And you can imagine when they're feeding in thickets and pushing trees over like that, those eyelashes just act as a little bit of a protective measure against the sticks and trees and bark that might be... Oh, there's some elephant trumpeting in the distance that might get into their eyes. So it just acts as a bit of protection. I'm sure there's some girls out there that are quite jealous of the length of these eyelashes on this elephant. In a morning filled with elephants on Ngala. A couple big herds in the east, a couple bulls in the central west. Never a bad time with elephants. Just going to take a few moments to just enjoy the peace and quiet around us.
Hello everyone, my name is Elmarie and I'm very excited about this drive. My husband Kleinhan bought me this Ticket to Dream for my birthday as a present because he knows I watch WildEarth all the time. I couldn't be more happy. I've never had such a great present in my life before.
If you want to go on safari with a WildEarth guide whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Okay, my favorite part about WildEarth is the characters, and then of course I love the bush and I love Africa, and just the fact that I can follow every day, that's one of my favorite things.
Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
Being on a live drive on WildEarth is really great because you can actually now smell the bush, see the animals in real life. You have to really make a plan and just do it.
Hi everybody, I'm Tiana, I'm from Johannesburg, and I am one of WildEarth's biggest fans.
Been watching for 4 years, DG here from the Ozarks.
It's been 4 years for me and I'm not leaving anytime soon.
It's given me a time away from the hassles of the city, and it's given me a connection to a place that has stolen my heart, which is Africa.
Last year we lost our son, and now we're just watching WildEarth. Love to all you guys.
You are reminding us of the role that we play in nature conservation, each and every one of us. You have reconnected myself to a dream that I had as a child to get involved in nature conservation, and for that I'm really grateful for as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website, but once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope your morning is going as well as mine is. It's been a rather exciting one. We are currently on lock with Tabungumi, who is thankfully just sat back up. He was being a bit of a flat cat earlier. We have a beautiful bird of light coming across through the grass over the termite mound and across onto his forehead. So those that are around with cameras are getting some beautiful shots. Not anymore. You just lay back down, being a typical feline and enjoying those cat naps. With the identification of leopard, it can be quite tricky, especially when they're a little bit younger. But as they get a bit older and a little bit more mature, the males are obviously a bit larger and also tend to have a lot more of a stocky neck. I always tend to think of them a bit like boxers, in the fact that like a heavyweight, but more well set. Beautiful creatures, very stealthy, very agile. A bit of a vehicle's just moving behind us at the moment. This guy has just gone a bit flat, but I would like to tell you guys a bit about the one time we had this beautiful male leopard that we were watching, or actually we were approaching from a distance. We were in the Kalahari Nature Reserve, and I had a family of 4 with me. And as we made our approach, this leopard came around the bush, had a good look at us, and then all of a sudden gave us a bit of a charge. And I was quite shocked with this because we were quite a distance away from it initially and unsure of why this leopard gave this reaction. But it quickly came to my attention what happened was that I had these 2 young girls sitting behind me, and they were actually wearing Alice bands that had cat's ears on them. So it was quite a unique situation in that nobody had actually done anything wrong. It's probably the silhouettes given away from the camera. Not from the camera, sorry. From the 2 young girls wearing those Alice bands. And it was just a different reaction that I had not seen before. Perhaps the leopard actually thought that there were other cats on the car. Who knows? One can only assume. He's just picking up on a bit of activity happening around. Now you can see he's got that beautiful black collar running down his neck. Megan, good question. I'm not too sure. I haven't had the greatest look at his tummy, but as we zoom in a little bit, we might be able to see if he's looking a little bit more full. We haven't been aware of any carcasses in the area. Earlier on, he was actually mobile and moved into this direction, finding himself across at this termite mound. He is not looking very hungry or very interested in anything at the moment, to be honest. So it's very possible that he could have eaten perhaps earlier this week or even just a day or two ago. He's not looking extremely full, but we haven't had him stand up yet, so we haven't been able to identify a bulge around his tummy or a sagging tummy or even any blood around the face or whiskers. But they are very good at grooming themselves, so they're always looking beautiful and presentable and rather neat. Speaking of whiskers, look at how long those guys' whiskers are. So those will come into play when hanging around termite mounds and entering burrows helps them identify the width and the size of the entrance, especially if it's in low light conditions. Not that they really need it because their eyesight is brilliant, but I suppose all of these factors come into play, so anything that can be of assistance is used. I find it remarkable that some of you out there are just able to pick up the differences between which leopard is who through the patterns on the face and along the whisker line. I've always struggled a little bit with that, but we're busy working on an ID kit back home at the moment. And I know the Sabi Sands has a brilliant one out here, so we'll try and copy and follow their lead. Now look at that. Naomi, thanks for that question. We've been really lucky. I've actually been across here for a day or two already, and we've seen quite a bit. I was hoping to see a few leopard, and I tell you what, I have seen a few indeed. Within a day or so, we've seen 3. Yesterday afternoon, we were across with Marips at Chito Dam, and then this morning we had Kara, and then now across with Tabangumi. So I am quite thrilled and very excited to have seen this many leopard already. And we had some amazing elephant sightings, as well as a brief lion visual on the way in the other day. So I'm quite content, to be honest. I just love being out here in the bush. And the things that excite me are being on a fresh set of tracks and being able to follow up on them and hopefully coming across hot on the heels of what's just left them behind. Tabangumi actually looks like he's settling down for the day. If we're very lucky, he might hang around in the area. That'll make this afternoon's drive a little easier. Well guys, we're going to be heading over to Mike, who seems to have found some tracks.
So Troy is busy looking at a leopard that's flat and lazy, and we have just found leopard tracks. Now this leopard was not being lazy. When it made this track, it looks like it was on a bit of a patrol. This is a large track. This looks like it was probably a male leopard, and a leopard this size will most likely have been a dominant male in the area. And it's walking down a game path that's quite prominent. So it seems to be on top of most of the other tracks that I can see. Well, I can't see it. We've walked up and down here a couple of times, but I think there's another track just over there. I think it continues down this way, and so you can see it's the kind of place where this leopard would have moved to get through the drainage line. And in fact, as we were leaving the HQ, we did find some male leopard tracks. So I suspect this was the same leopard that just walked through here earlier and then was at HQ, which is almost a kilometer or so away from here, on its territorial patrol. It was just walking along the road, so that's why I think it was probably just on patrol, not hunting. But you can see it's quite a nice track. It's got those 3 lobes at the back, not easy to see because of the angle of this little game path. And 1, 2, 3, 4 toes there, relatively squished together, just because it was standing on the side. And it would have moved from there if it took a stride. The next stride would have been somewhere around here. But you can see there's quite a nice Craig track. And then another track, I think, is right over there. So I suspect it was walking down here. In fact, I think if we walk down here, we might actually see some more tracks of it. Let's have a look. Let's have a look, see. No, it's very difficult, isn't it? It's not very clear or easy. Oh, there's a track just over there, I think. No, I could be lying to you. I think I'm lying, actually. I think I'm just making stuff up now. In any case, it would have walked this way. Those tracks are fairly fresh, so it either walked down here in this drainage line, that way, or it would have walked across and up this side, which I guess we'll find out in a couple of minutes when we cross this drainage line. But it's always so interesting to me to think that we are walking in the footsteps of one of the most apex predators. What a humbling thought.
Welcome back, guys. We're just repositioning. Seeing if we can reposition ourselves quickly. Get a bit of a closer look. It's lovely when they just rode over like that. Reminds me so much of my house cat. Just much larger. Without having spotted him earlier and having a bit of intel, definitely have driven past it. The camouflage is amazing.
So as you can see, we have left those 2 elephant bulls and made our way sort of back towards the southern bank of the Timbavati riverbed at a prominent area in the central part known as Ngala Loop Trevor's Hole, and we're about to drop into one of our crossings known as Samango Crossing. For you, those of you know what a Samango monkey is, that's how this crossing managed to get its name. One of the rangers just driving in front of us. So I'm just giving him a bit of space to move. And there are more elephants. Can you believe it? Ngala today is absolutely pumping with elephants. So we'll see if we can get a view, even from the bank here, where Odie and myself can sit in the shade. But quite a nice view of this herd moving through on our left-hand side, across on the other side of the river. And it will be a different herd to that herd we saw this morning. It's quite close. It's in a similar area to that herd that we opened or introduced Ngala to this morning. And you can see, as I mentioned, as it gets a little bit warmer and it starts to warm up around the riverbed, these animals have moved back down to the banks to feed. It is a big herd of elephants as well. There's lots of them moving through at the back. And you can see that one almost looks like he's busy resting against that marula tree. And you can see it is busy feeding on some of the nicer grass around this area of the reserve. So one day at a time, we've seen, when was it, about a week and a half ago, I saw a really nice big elephant bull with prominent tusks. I don't think tusks that would classify him necessarily as a tusker, but one of the other ranges apparently this morning, not far, pretty much between where we had the lions and the buffaloes yesterday evening, saw a really big elephant bull. I didn't copy if it had big tusks or not, but there are, Ngala's in a good area of the Kruger National Park where we do tend to see some rather large elephant bulls with rather large tusks. It's unfortunate that the gene pool of these large Kruger tuskers is not as prominent and not as common as what we used to see. Those big tuskers tend to move enormous distances to try and find areas to feed in specific times of the year, and then when they're ready to mate, when they come into musk, they travel huge distances looking for elephant cows that are receptive and also looking to breed. So with this open ecosystem, there's always a chance on Ngala that there might be a big elephant bull with really nice tusks. You can see that young bull busy urinating as well. Nice to start off drive with Ellies and end them off with another herd as well. So Rob, it's tricky to say because of the open ecosystem. So anything that we could get at Ngala, you could get at Djuma, you could get anywhere in the Kruger National Park. But I would say up to about, at its most, maybe 100, 150 in the herd, which is an enormous herd of elephants. That is a lot of elephants. More often than not, we tend to see herds of between 10 and 30. I'd say on average, those are the size. So if you find a herd of 20 to 30 elephants, it's quite a large herd for the area. But then again, you can imagine with these herds, if a couple of them join up, it can get really big and become call it a super herd. Where? Oh, yes. Okay, Odie's just mentioning that Yapi, one of the other guides, saw elephants the other day, and he didn't think he was over-exaggerating a little bit, but he said there were about 300 elephants. And I'm guessing with the amount of tracks that we saw, and now you've got it in picture, that small baby, I would guess there were at least over 100 elephants in that herd. So, it's a number that could exist and you could find. But you can imagine as well with the bush being as dense as it is around Ngala, for 100 elephants, you'll probably only end up, unless they were moving through a really big clearing or crossing a road or the riverbed, not going to see the whole herd and the entire number of elephants that are there. Just those other vehicles that you can hear driving, was that just that one vehicle that was in front of us and then are moving off and out of the area. All starting to flap their ears now as it's getting a little bit warmer, trying to cool down, but very relaxed, feeding in this central part of andBeyond's Ngala property. Yeah, well, that's screeching in the background as well. There's a couple brown-headed parrots that are busy calling. There's also a woodpecker that's busy tapping up to our left. Might be able to hear that as it pecks into the apple leaf, trying to look for some food. It's in quite a dense part of the tree, though, so I don't think we'll be able to get a view of it. But always nice to be able to hear it. And on that note, I think before these ellies come down into the riverbed and block our route and our path, I think let's keep going. What we're going to do from here is just hop into the riverbed and start driving in an easterly direction back towards camp. It should take about 20 odd minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that. And we'll see, maybe we can pick up on some leopard tracks for this afternoon. Nice thing about driving in the riverbed from time to time, especially when it's a little bit, when the ruts are a little bit deeper, you don't have to steer. So you can take your focus off that. But I think we'll keep slowly cruising in the riverbed. Nice morning sun to warm everything up, and we'll see what else we can find this morning.
As the sun goes down in Africa, for many, the day has just begun. WildEarth is ready for the next brand new concept, and this time, it's at night. A specialized thermal drone will take to the air under the cover of darkness. As it flies above the bush, it will be searching for hotspots on the ground.
We might have a leopard on the far right of this group of hyena.
The ground team will then be called to identify the animal.
It is a warthog. That's exactly what it is. So there we go. It was a warthog that was running away from... Sorry, Warty.
And of course, it is at this time when the big cats are on the hunt.
Yeah, James, just head a little bit more left.
Okay, copy. I'm going to go north around on Impala Road.
Okay, the lions are on the move, guys. Lions are chasing the wildebeest.
WildEarth is looking for a sponsor who can help turn this show to a long-running series. If you are interested, then head over to our website to find out more. wildearth.tv/sponsors. As one of the industry's best and Fagasa endorsed training institutes, NJ Moorfield Guide College produces professional guides of exceptional caliber and gives students from around the world an incredible experience. NJ Moore offers courses to suit all types of interests. The full-length career course results in a Fagasa accredited qualification and the option of a 6-month internship at one of Moore Family Collection's luxury safari lodges. Shorter courses are a great introduction for those considering a career in field guiding or even a life-enriching experience in your gap year. With spaces still available in July, don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity to live your African dream.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond and Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond and Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Welcome back, everybody. So we've just repositioned. Tabungume seems to have picked up on something interesting. Not too sure what it is yet, but something has piqued his interest. He's just crouched down now, low into the grass. So what we might do is we might just see if we can reposition just to get a bit of a better angle, but we're just going to give it a quick moment and listen for a minute, just in case there was something that did catch his interest close by, as we do not want to scare that away or influence his intentions. I always think it's so beautiful how these creatures are able to just melt into the environment. Literally just walked up onto the top of this termite mound, crouched down, and he's barely visible. That gives you a better perspective now. We're only a matter of a few meters away from him, and you could quite easily just stroll past him without knowing that he was there. Kara, Gavin, that is a good question. He's actually not that far from where Kara was. I'd say approximately about 1.5 kilometers. So that was actually quite thrilling, because we rolled over from one leopard sighting basically into the next. So not at all far from one another. Perhaps later they might even bump into one another. We're just going to quickly reposition and see if we might be able to get some of the better morning light from the other side. It might be a little trick. Oh, look, he's just got up. I'm going to drop down towards this drainage line. Looks as if he's spotted something. Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I think that he would be at the age of mating. Him being born in about 2018, he's definitely around about the right age to start mating, although there might be some more dominant males within the area, although their territories wouldn't overlap. So you'll probably find that he has already mated with a few females in the area and will continue to do so for a long period of time still. Busy giving himself a good grooming over there. He's found himself another shady spot. This is where you can see that rough tongue definitely comes into play. Danny, what types of animals do I find most interesting? I find that's always a bit of a tricky question, because each day that I spend in the bush, I tend to find something new and interesting. So to answer that, I think that it changes daily, really. I love watching animal behavior, just like Tabangumi is doing at the moment, busy grooming himself. So it does vary from day to day. I would say I really enjoy spending time with leopard, but at the same time, elephant fascinate me. And that's because they convey a lot of human-like characteristics. So I suppose they're easy to associate oneself with. He really is getting in there, cleaning those paws, trying to get between the claws, and then grooming the face. Well, guys, it looks like we're coming to the end of today's episode. We've had a fantastic morning out here. It really has been incredible. Thank you for David's introduction and getting me involved in this. And thank you very much to WildEarth. If you guys have enjoyed this episode of WildEarth, please do come back to us a bit later. The next episode will be airing at about 2:30 Central African time, so do tune in.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.